Okay, so we're in here now. Always select all boards. So back to your question is, you'll see anything in any of these boards, Pike Wayne, Pocono, yada yada, which is pretty much everywhere he's looking. And so when we post as Scranton,
Okay.
but it goes onto all the boards. All the databases are swirled together. Um, so then you draw. Usually, you can do whatever criteria you want, but you're going to pick residential. Once you go to, if you picked multifamily, and then you go pick all boards, it defaults back to residential.
Okay.
So pick your boards first, then go down and say, whatever, say, okay, I want residential. Status of active, usually, because obviously those are the ones being shown. And I think I talked before, the status are contingent, meaning it's still active, you can still go see it, but there's a contract, they're waiting for something.
Mhm.
So just realize you're a backup if you go. Coming soon is just what it sounds like, coming soon. I had to do that I kind of burned myself on Duryea, so here's a little bit of warning on listening to me. I put a broadcast email out saying, hey guys, I'm flipping a house, coming soon will be this listing. 5 minutes later, the board hits me with a $300 fine. If you don't list this within 24 hours, you owe us $300 because you sent an email out for something coming soon. Never do that. If
So
you're
it
not
has
ready
to
to
be like X amount of time after you announce that?
well, I didn't have a listing for it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't intend to list it. We were just starting to flip.
Mhm.
And I thought I was just saying, hey guys, if you're looking, here it is. Apparently somewhere in the NAR settlement, there was a rule that you can't do that anymore. I don't know who that's antitrust against. I don't know who gets hurt by doing those messages, but also what you can't do is don't send an email out saying, hey, my client is looking for this. I almost got a $1,000 fine for that. If I ever do it again, I get a $1,000 fine. And again, I'm not sure who was harmed by saying, hey, if someone knows of this, but don't do it. Big money, bad things. So coming soon is pretty much ignore it. Pending is it's under contract. Now, when you're looking to find out the value of a property, don't use pending. You draw your circle and you say, show me closed only. Because if it's active, it's the asking price.
Mhm.
If it's contingent, coming soon, or pending, it's the asking price.
Okay.
So if they had it listed for $500,000 and they sold it for $100,000, you're not going to know that on pending.
Mhm.
Closed is what actually is sold.
Wow.
And closed is closed, then closed is sold. It's over. It's done. Expired, the listing agent, we'll get to this later, the listing agent's contract, the time right now. These are a great source of leads. You go into the Flex and you create a search in whatever radius you want of the expireds. First couple of days will shake out all the crap that's been for a long time.
Mhm.
And then after that, oh, that one expired last night. Let me look up and call the owner and see if they still want to list. Because that means the owner wanted to sell. We don't know what happened since then, but they wanted to sell, it didn't sell, it couldn't get it done.
Mhm.
And then withdrawn, the agent pulled it off the market, but it's still their listing. So you can't go after it. You can't target withdrawals. Canceled, it's over. You can target them if you want. Problem is, you don't know why they canceled. Someone took an action. The seller and the agent signed off and said this listing is canceled. Does that mean the seller changed their mind? They did something else with it. They don't want to sell anymore. I wouldn't go farm cancels. Go farm expires. I wouldn't farm cancels. So we're going after, in his case, we're going after actives. And you can put other criteria in here. You can put purchase date, you can put amounts. And you will see that all of these change depending on the boards you pick. Scranton has more choices. Some boards don't have those choices, so they take it away entirely.
Mhm.
So whatever. And then you'll pretty much draw a circle of whatever he wants. Circle, square, whatever shape or set of shapes you want. So whatever. I want to look in this box. Just, and I usually use circle because the other shapes are always hard to use. But, and you can sort by price, you can sort by a lot of things. Then you come and look at the list. And what you'll do is you'll say, save. You'll save the search. And you'll say it's a new or existing search, you'll name it. And you go through all this stuff, and then you'll save and add and contact. None new or existing. So he's a new contact. So you'll put him in here with his email.
Okay, so then it'll keep it all organized for like each.
Yep.
Oh, okay, that's good.
And
So
save and add subscription.
it'll constantly send him what's listed.
I think it's every day at midnight or something, and just
Resend it.
so then he'll get whatever, and you know, if you narrow it down by price, by bedrooms, he'll get that. But a lot of times, like if they say their max, especially as we're sliding into a buyer's market, they say their max is 200. You know, I would set the slider at 250 or 300, just because you know how motivated the seller is.
Mhm.
Right.
You know, or how motivated, you know, he might tell you 200, but actually there's another 100 sitting somewhere if you really love something.
Mhm.
And I usually with my clients, because my clients are investors, I'll just draw a circle and send them everything and be like, there it is.
Mhm.
And I say my clients, and I'll be honest with you, every time, even when my longtime clients call me, I don't want to deal with them anymore. So I'll probably start referring out and just charging like a 25% referral fee to just give you guys and the other agents
Yeah.
who call me. I just have too much else going on. I don't want to be running around with buyers and sellers.
Mhm.
I want to develop you guys and feed you guys and the other agents. But pretty much you'll say, okay, you know, you'll fill all that in, you'll save and add subscription. And then boom, it'll start, okay, fine. Basically, you'll go through this process. I don't want to add an empty one. But then you're also going to glance and you're going to do, and this is the other thing you'll do is you'll say list, maybe start descending, whatever. Watch us get like $4 million. So yeah, $6 million. Okay, maybe look at the other one. And you'll just start scanning and saying, well, from what he described, and you'll click off the half dozen or whatever that look good. Right here, here's a nice place. And you'll send him, and that's where you send him an email, and you'll say, email. I like interactive version, but whichever, doesn't matter. And all, you know, selected, all, whatever. And this is where down bottom, and this part down here was on the other one if I'd finished the subscription section. Always listings, you know, from Stephanie, you know, Pennsylvania listings or whatever, so that he knows
Exactly what's.
that's not just a generic thing that says listing, you know, something that, and that it'll also all come up. And I usually do from you location for his name, because it will also get emailed to you, and then you'll know, hey, that one's for him.
Mhm.
And then you'll just take a quick scan every day and say, oh, that one looks kind of fun, because everybody likes attention. And this is one of the reasons I don't do well as a direct agent, because I don't want to sort of call, I don't want that personal level with them in terms of, hey, I was looking through the listings this morning and I saw this one that fits you. That's what you should do.
Yeah.
You should just glance at it for 30 seconds and say, hey, this, you know, these new active listings look fun for you. Because then this thing has done most of the searching for you. And you're just looking through the listing and then you're popping a quick email. It takes 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I do it. I just don't love it. But hey, I was looking through the listings. These 6 look interesting. And also watch the board email, because it's interesting. We can't say to other agents, hey, I'm looking for this. But as a listing agent, you can say, hey, I just listed this. So watch the board email and just kind of scan. Did something come up last night on a board email that looks like it would fit my gash?
Oh, yeah.
So you're just gonna, you know, and then in the body here, you're gonna say, hey, I was looking through listings and I thought these would be fun for you. You know, or whatever.
So this is opposite. So you could send them the email list. You could put their email in for that. They'll just generate every
Yeah.
midnight. They'll get that every day on their email. And then this is just directly from us. If
That,
we find
you've
out.
picked whatever ones
Okay.
you think fit, and you're sending him a direct email.
Okay.
And the CRM that we're rolling out will also do automatic stuff as well.
Mhm.
But basically, you know, this is sort of the here's some stuff. Now you can also look at, you know, be on the Facebook investor groups, and you know, like PA investment property owners and so forth. You can look at the groups that I'm on, and look at what other people are listing. I mean off-market guys, flippers. You know, look at what they're doing. You know, maybe there's a wholesaler out there. Beware. We'll talk about that separately, but maybe something will come up on the wholesale side. You know, this guy told me he wants to spend 200, but he'd be happy to buy something that needs work. And all of a sudden, in a perfect community, some wholesaler has something for 100 grand that maybe needs a full gut job, but might suit your guy.
Yeah.
Like we almost had one yesterday in, I forget where it was, that the family done a lot of work to the house, and but it needed some more work. Where we lost it was they'd already been burned by an EXP broker, and then where they lost 3 months, and then they, nothing is EXP, just whatever,
Yeah.
and then they lost another 2 months with a wholesaler. And so I said, well, I need a contract for 4 weeks. He's like, I'm not signing any other contract. You can bring me money, or I said, I'm not driving down to Ashland and promising you money unless we're under contract. I'm just not doing it.
Mhm.
That was where it broke. And he's like, well, I said, honestly, sir, no offense, but you need to close in 2 weeks or else you lose the other house you're getting. No one can accomplish that for you. Can't happen. But the closest thing is the guy who could buy your house, the guy who could wholesale your house, the guy who could flip your house, the guy who could list your house, and the guy who could loan you the money you need to buy your next house while you still own this house. If those options aren't good enough for you, you can't do it.
Mhm.
So, and always be ready. At the end of the day, you're running your own business. I mean, you're part of us, but you're running your own company. So always be ready to say, this is what I'm willing to be. This is what I'm willing to do. Earlier on in this part of in this career, I used to drive to, Gouldsboro for a listing of a $45,000 house. So I'm on the road 2 hours each way. And I'm abandoning the lockbox and I'm abandoning the sign because I ain't going back for them. And now I'm like, no, I'm just not doing it. If it's more than a 20-minute drive, I'm not doing it. Because it's not worth it for me to lose that time. And you can always say, gee, I'll be on phone. And some people are great at that. I'm not great at making good time in the car. So then you'll do and you'll hit email. And so he'll realize maybe it's once a week, whatever. Hey, these people are actually looking for me. And also try to follow up with them, if there's nothing. Follow up with them anyway every couple of weeks. Send them a text message, make a phone call. And again, determine which way they work. Sadly enough, this is a business where we have to be the chameleon to the customer. So if he's a texter, great, you can text him. If he's a call guy, he's not a texter, great. This guy I just talked to, that'll send you his number, sounds like he's 200 years old. So he's probably not a text guy.
Mhm.
Although he did just text me, so that's kind of
Yeah,
that call.
sure.
But he has that Pepperidge Farm grandpa voice. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, and really remember in all of it that the balance between in this business is we need to give them the benefit of our experience and our opinion of what we know in real estate, what we know of them and the communities. But at the end of the day, we're their parent. And so all we can say is, hey, here are some things we thought of. What are you looking for? What can we do? It's totally a service business. And the agents that do great, and look, you guys sound like you have the right headspace, are the ones that are all about, that literally wake up every morning. I love showing my clients new houses. I love promoting new listings. I love finding people apartments. That's the attitude. I love building a brokerage firm. I love training people in this. The wake up and say, I really love helping people find their forever home. That is a wonderful skill. And that's where you're going to get the referrals. That's where you're going to build the multi-million-dollar team. And that's why we built this brokerage firm to be as wide open. What do you want to be? You want to be an investor. Blah, blah, blah. So that's what you're doing with this guy. Is you're saying, hey, here's the search. Here's what I found on the MLS. Now, when you find a wholesale or an off market, so there's for sale by owners. And this is where the buyer agency agreement is key. Because if you send him an address on a FSBO, he pulls up and there's a phone number in front. You kind of lost control of the situation.
Yeah.
But if you call them up and say, hey, there's something in, whatever, Duryea, that's a for sale by owner, I can represent you on it. Yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, I'm gonna send you the buyer agency agreement because the National Association of Realtors requires it. Sign that, I'll go over, I'll take a look at the house, or whatever, so that you don't have to drive out here. If he's far away, he's not gonna wanna come out for every single house.
Yeah, no, he told me if I can just line up a few properties
Yeah.
for one day and
Boom, boom,
we can
definitely.
tour it around.
And pretty much what I would do is I would go over, or consider doing, depends on how far it is from you. I mean,
Yeah.
It all depends, but is call the for sale by owner guy and say, hey, listen, I'm making an appointment for my client, you know, and either we're gonna come, or, and that's through a locked buyer's agreement, or, hey, listen, can I stop by? I think I've got a couple clients that might be interested. If it's worth it, you go over, take a look, then also have another agreement with this, potentially with the seller if they're willing to. Listen, there's a fee here if I bring a buyer. I'm not asking you. You want me to be your listing agent? I'd love to, but I'm not trying to push in an area you don't want to do it. Try to be as protective of yourself.
Mhm.
Legally, once you tell him of a property and you have a buyer agency agreement, he's required to sell it to you or pay you. Not sell it to you, pay you. On a practical level, how would you know? So you kind of want to make sure both parties are looking at you and saying you're the king.
Yeah.
Also, for sale by owner, my old broker, my first broker, used to call it first source of business opportunity. Because those guys know they want to sell their house. Duh, they're listing themselves. And they're probably sick and tired of tire kickers and of all the crap that goes with showing a house.
Yeah.
So what you have here, and the fact that Realtor, hit you that quickly, that's great. That you have a buyer ready to walk in the door. Now, I also have another buyer that I talked to yesterday, who I actually owe a call back to, who oddly enough wants to buy something that's owned by one of my other agents. But Jamar doesn't seem that motivated to actually help the guy buy his property. So I'm probably going to give you this buyer's number, and I'll probably have to be a little more involved in this one because this guy's a very advanced investment buyer.
Okay.
But and I don't know where they ended up on the call, but like clearly this guy wants to buy several properties. And Jamar told me when he signed on board here, he's like, I only want to sell the things I own. He's like, if I flip it, I sell it. He's like, I don't want to be a regular agent. Okay. So this buyer can belong to you guys as well. And just working whatever we can find him. This guy, 95% chance Jewish, very New York, New Jersey, very big, big city kind of attitude. I'm from Boston, so I get it. And he's like, what's the cheapest multifamily? I like things broken because I can put money into them. But I'll take them finished if I have to.
Yeah.
And you can everybody needs to prove their funds, but you can just tell with certain people that money is not a thing they worry about counting. Because he knows that for the right deal, the money's in the investment world, the money's always there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at a 7-unit in Wilkes-Barre, which, I probably wouldn't want to put more than 200 into, but the guy wants 450. I know that's the price. I can make that deal work. And I'm making an offer because I know I can find the other 200. Because in the investment world, the money, if the numbers make sense, the money's there.
Yeah.
So when you're talking with these investors, they're looking at spreadsheets. They're looking at this guy that you're working with now. He wants to love the property. He's going to live there. He's going to like the location. Your investors, and I've had to convince a few investors of this. Well, I don't really think I could live here. Well, you don't have to.
Yeah, trying to make money from it.
You live in the Hollywood Hills overlooking the Pacific. You're never going to live in Scranton.
Yeah.
But the people in Scranton love this. So that's what you do with a deal with a typical buyer. Is you kind of go through and you set them up and you just kind of say, hey, I saw this. And also when he comes out, use it as an opportunity, because he is so far away, to give him a driving tour of the region.
Yeah.
Like probably for him, I mean, Allentown certainly, because that's a 78. That's a 78. That could be an option. But depending on how far you guys really want it to go, Hazleton, Hazleton, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, be like, hey, listen, these are, and the surrounding towns. And be like, all right, we'll use Luzerne County because I know it right in here. Right along the west side, south of here is Plymouth and Larksville. They're okay towns. but they're a little less moneyed,
Yeah,
and they're a little, not rougher. I'm from Boston. There is no like rougher around here, but they're just not as great as Kingston, Wyoming, West Wyoming. It's kind of like, and I don't know the Lackawanna County towns as well, but you know, if you're in, you know, Taylor or you're in, you know, Dunmore, they have different feelings to them. And you drive around and say, listen, they all look the same. But here's kind of how they feel about themselves. Here's kind of how the people view them. And what is it, you know, especially if he live there, what's he looking for?
yeah,
You know, he might also want to be in the Lackawanna County area because if the train ever does make it here, it might be an easier jump on the thing. But also, you might want to sell them on the fact that, I mean, the Mart's bus is phenomenal. I don't know if you've ever done the bus to the city, but like it's, you know, jump on the bus and you're great. You got
Yeah, yeah.
Wi-Fi power the whole
I've done
way.
it once.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, oh, gee, if you're going to be a commuter,
Yeah.
it's going to suck to be in the car 3 hours each way.
Yeah,
But it
it
sucks
does.
a lot less to get on the bus and let the bus driver deal with it, and you sit there on your Wi-Fi with your laptop. You know, so kind of let him know that stuff, and yeah, and you know, and does he want to be? So a lot of when you're selling him, you know, you're selling him on, you know, does he want to live rural? And the other thing you ask is, you know, does he even want to consider? Because if he goes with FHA, VA, or USDA, or those alphabet soup loans, he can do up to a 4-unit property. So does he want to be a mini landlord? Live in one side, rent the other, have no mortgage? Is that even on his radar? And if so, adjust this, throw multifamily in the mix. And I can walk you through sort of a lot, you know, once he narrows down, we can say, okay, well, here's how you determine if it works. So really, it kind of went through a lot of things, but basically, get improved funds. And that is not always a hard and fast rule. Like if you've got a good rapport going with the guy and he's like, hey, I'm coming out on Saturday, can you show me around? It's probably worth an hour or so of your time to show him around, even if he hasn't proven funds.
Right.
Like the NAR says, don't meet with anyone who hasn't signed a buyer agency agreement. On a practical level, that's just not real. That's not always real life. You know, you just have to decide, especially because you're new and whatever, but also, all right, what kind of a rapport am I building? You know, and also given the fact that we're both Spanish speaking and he's coming out to an area where that's not very common.
Yeah.
You know, you got a leg up in terms of that and saying, hey, and also as a guy who, you know, hey, listen, I live here as a Spanish speaker, and here's how I feel in this community versus that community. You know, when I first moved back here in 2001, it was either 2001 or before I left in '96 that the mayor of Wilkes-Barre, or Hazelton, who became congressman, he was doing all this illegal immigration crap and like doing ICE raids before ICE raids
Oh,
were a thing.
Mayor Lou Barletta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, as someone who saw Hazelton before the Dominicans and the other cultures,
Yeah, I actually lived through that in
Yeah.
Hazleton.
I mean,
And-
nothing saved Hazelton more than that culture moving in and fixing a town that.
That's what I was thinking too, because we're in Drums, which is like Hazleton practically. But like
Yeah.
if he's looking for a community like that, like that's an area that's more, I would say, more Spanish culture now is
Yeah.
heavier than Wilkes-Barre. You know, so that
Exactly.
would be, you know,
And also, Attorney John Rogers, who's a real estate attorney up here, one of the two biggest, the 2 or 3 guys. John's one of them. John is pushing. Well, 6 months ago, before the last election, John and I were talking. Like, so where should I be looking at Tamaqua? I said, "What? Tamaqua." He's like, there are 5 more industrial sites coming to Hazelton over the next year, and there's no affordable housing. And Tamaqua is the next. You know, Tamaqua lands for that. He's like, that's the next logical place for that upturn.
Affordable living and stuff too.
Yeah. You know, so, you know, and again, how far you want to take him, how far, whatever, we can handle anything anywhere in the state.
Yeah.
But in terms of, you know, and you say to him, listen, you lived through the Lou Barletta era, which was a hugely disappointing, like, you know, time for this market. And you're like, listen, I remember Hazelton when you could buy the whole town for $50,000. And now you
Yeah.
can't get crap for $50,000.
mhm.
Yeah, half the doubles were going for 10, 15,000.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And now, like, you can't, you know, the average low income person can't afford it.
No.
You know, I mean, and I've been amazed by it, and you know, I'm a little disappointed at how far up this market went because I think a lot of people can't afford it. They tell us this is what it's like as someone who lived, who's been here for a long time.
Yeah, rent back then was six,
I
$700
know,
a month.
yeah, you
We
don't
lived in
think
a
that
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedroom.
Yeah.
For $700 a month.
Yeah.
Now that 5 bedrooms going for $2,000.
Exactly.
That's nuts.
Yeah. And he's probably going to ask questions about appreciation, and try to be straight with them. When I first moved here in 2000, or back here in 2003, and I bought my house in Pittston, I wasn't even in real estate at the time. I asked the pizza shop guy, who DeMuro's been there forever. He's like, appreciation. Nothing changes. He's like, nothing changes in Pittston. I said, what's happened? He's like, this place is worth the same as it was 30 years ago. He basically was right. Like, we had changed not at all. So if he's buying in now and thinking, oh, it's going to double, you'd be serious. Sir, anything can happen, but realistically, probably not. How many years are you here when house prices never change?
It was a long time.
Whereas
Yeah.
he's from New York, New Jersey, where appreciation is simply a natural fact of life.
Yeah. I actually don't think the housing market started changing until after I got out of high school, 2010.
Yeah.
That's when things started to increase more. There
Yeah.
were more buyers.
Exactly.
A lot of people from the city coming to invest.
Yeah.
And then during pandemic, it just skyrocketed.
So basically, and that's where, and if you can win the rapport with him, then he might be an exclusive buyer. You might, if you can get the exclusive agency with him, that anything he wants to buy in this market is through you, that's great. So that, if you can gain that kind of position, and you have to gain that position by being available to them. That's the end of the day. They're looking for, they're looking for that connection. And so you have to say, okay, and I've done this with 2 buyers myself, where, on the investor side, I'd be like, well, okay, well, he's like, well, I think it's worth this. So, well, let me tell you this, and this, where it's worth half what you think it's worth. And the renovations are double. No, I definitely want to see it. We come out. He's like, well, the renovations are twice, and it's worth half. Yeah. At a certain point with a buyer or seller, you will get to the point, there'll be somebody sometime that you're like, this just is not the relationship that is working. That's okay, as long as you're straight with them. As long as you're, whatever. Or you say to them, like I said to both of these guys, I'm like, I can do this for you, but this is the way I have to do it. When I tell you it's that, you can come out and see it if you want. I'll have one of my agents show you. Or, we just have to realize that it has to be worth it for both of us. And I had one guy who insisted on no other agents could show him anything. I said, great. If I don't think this is going to work out for you, you're going to pay me $500 to show up. Because I was just like, why am I spending 3 hours for that? And I'm not trying to give you the downside. I'm saying you're in control of saying, hey, this works or doesn't. But there's not a lot of Spanish-speaking agents. Where you're located, I don't have anybody down there. So like geographically, everybody, I'll send you whatever you want. But anybody that calls us from Southern Luzerne County, great. But so that's kind of what you're doing with him.
Okay.
And what you're also going to do is you're going to, when he says, I'm interested in, I don't know, this property, then you're going to go to the map and you're going to draw, let me go to the circle. Come on, journals. All right, so we'll say that's the house he's interested in. So you're going to go to the map, and there's the circle. That star is that checkbox. And you're going to draw a circle. I recommend a half a mile around. So you might have to zoom in to get it to that, but whatever. And then you're going to look at closed. And again, you're searching all boards. And now you're going to look at what closed in that circle that looks like your subject property. And what's it worth? And this is how the CMA is much more complicated, but this is how you run a quick comp. And you could send him everything in this circle and say, just so you know, here's what's sold near you. So this is what you're getting into as a community. But then you take a quick look and you say, okay, well, I just looked at a trailer, so that's probably $670,000 is probably not my trailer. And you just look and say, okay, 25,000. Okay, those aren't trailers; those are modulars. And you look at things like square footage and bedrooms and bathrooms, and you match all that up to his subject property that he's interested in. And you say, you know what? I see us. I showed you a trailer. This dumpy trailer sold for $25,000. This modular, probably about the same size, sold for 120. So you say, all right, and then you go further. You look into. You want to look into two things. You want to look into when it sold, because the market obviously curves over time. And you want to look at things like bedrooms, bathrooms. You want to look at pictures. You want to look and say, okay, well,
I do see there on the side though, it says, is that the same place that says 120 and then underneath it's 125 on the left side there?
yeah. So
Is that the same?
yeah. So basically, that means that. Let's see. So it listed in 2025, originally listed at 149, and it closed 5 months later, and it closed at 120.
Okay.
So this is what they originally thought they wanted for it, and that's what they eventually took for it. Now it's interesting because this is property sold in as-is condition. All repairs and whatever should be responsibility of buyer. Now you see that, and some agents just put that in just because. But I'm looking at this and thinking, wow, the repairs really not that much. They look kind of nice, Okay.
Yeah.
And then you look at things like the
Detail.
Details.
yeah. You look at things like in the documents. You look at the seller's disclosure. If important remark. Okay, anything like important remark. Okay, well, what's wrong with this house? Pre-qualified buyers only, not delivered, room swept clean, items to remain. And that's important when you're listing. Make sure you're clear if it's not things like room swept. But they didn't give a seller's disclosure, which a little disappointing. They legally required to, but that's okay. So you don't know what they mean by, is that just their standard, like they sound like a foreclosure company. Like, we don't know this house, we're selling it, deal with it,
Yeah.
you're on your own. But so you say, all right, and then you look at, just for this one here, you just look and say, okay, well, this mobile home, let's snap through some pictures and see what it looks like. All right, not horrible, I guess, for a mobile home. We don't want documents, we want to see the report. Maple Lane, charming mobile. Okay, so not telling us a lot about the house. Okay, so then at least you're saying, a lot of times I'll just send a circle. And most of my guys are investors. I'll just send a circle. And I'll be like, now you know what the community is that you're looking at buying into. But then you're also able to say to them, hey, listen, you're looking at something for $200,000. And there's nothing on under $500,000 in your neighborhood. You're winning.
Mm-hmm.
Or hey, you're looking at something for $200,000 and there's nothing over $100,000 in your neighborhood. You might have trouble getting an appraisal. We're not experts.
Yeah.
But hey, just realize you're buying the nicest house in a crappy neighborhood. You're buying the crappiest house in a nice neighborhood. Or bluntly, this seller wants something that can never possibly happen. That basically, they want $200,000 and nothing is sold. Do you want to go see it? Or do you want us to have a conversation with the seller's agent to say, hey, there's no way in hell I'm giving you 200, or tell me why I should give you 2, because I've had a conversation with sellers agent be like, hey, tell me why you're asking for double. Well, based on the square footage. Okay, tell me why is it actually worth it? Why will the appraiser think it's worth it? And sometimes the seller's agent will have a great reason why,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll be like, they can't say it, but they'll basically say it's not worth it. They'll be like, well, my seller is really intent on that being the number, which is agents speak for. I tried to talk them out of it, and they said no. So, but you go to your buyers. Here's what I'm finding in the neighborhood as far as what the values are. just so you know when you come out there, here's what sold recently. So, and all of that is just a matter of giving the most information. Now, have you been in zip forms yet and seen?
Yeah, I've been in zip forms. You
Okay.
have to search through a bunch of forms and stuff.
Yeah, so in
That's
zip
right.
forms, and we can certainly, walk through that over time, but in zip forms, have you been in zip forms seen it yet, or?
Briefly, like as he scrolled through it, but we haven't really like.
Okay. So basically zip forms, and I can give you checklists of what the forms are, but on the buyer side, you start with, everybody starts with the consumer notice. There is
Okay.
one for buyers and sellers, and you should use the right one, but I've never really noticed the difference in them. So like, as long as they got something saying consumer notice, the worst you'd have to say to a state inspector is, oops, I sent the wrong one.
Mhm.
It's a consumer
Consumer
notice.
notice.
Then they'll get the buyer agency agreement. Let's check what this is. Real
You were saying
quick.
there was a button. You can't just like search it through, like one there. Are you able to?
I did it briefly on my phone. I don't know if you
You haven't
remember.
pulled it up on there.
I did have it
You
pulled up on
did,
there.
yeah, but we were having trouble finding where they were at because there were just like tons of them. So it's there's no way to like be able to pull them up, or you just kind of have to scroll through all of them to find.
Well, so I mean, so the forms. That's why I heard. I'll give you a list now, and I'll also pull them up here. And
Now, I'm not sure how the thing works, but if you once you have it, can you save it and then just
oh yeah,
return to
that's
it
that's
and
actually
log in?
where I was going to show you. So
Okay.
in zip forms login, that's probably the most useful thing to do is to go zip forms plus login, which you can get through Flex. For some
Mhm.
reason, my connection doesn't get me there, and I've given up caring. Oh, it's going to make me do this, isn't it? Okay, good. It's gonna let me in. My computer's like blipped all of my passwords, and so I'm kind of guessing at all of them. So you go into templates,
Mhm.
and you set up a new template, like generic listing, and I can send you what I have in there.
Few templates.
But yeah, so you set up a template with, and then once you have the template, cool thing about the template is you can put in your name as the agent, the brokerage firm name, yada yada yada, and it'll
And
fill it
save
out
that.
every
Okay.
time. All your license numbers will be all right where they belong, and you're done.
So it'll be forms and checklists.
Yeah, so you go
Yeah,
into from the dashboard, you go into templates,
Okay.
And then-
forms and checklists, and then you'll
You'll
set
create
up
them. So he has them already. We don't have anything, so that's
up
right.
here.
Yeah.
You'll hit new.
Okay. New.
Now I can also give you my login here, and you can just go in and see what forms I use in my templates. And they have Spanish versions of a lot of things. And they also
So what are you
have
talking about? Did you say you have? You
Yeah, I had a
couldn't find
Spanish client. I couldn't find the
Spanish version?
agency
that
in Spanish.
that one, unfortunately, I mean, that's why I say a lot of things they have some, but also what I've done is I've taken the forms and I've just pasted them into ChatGPT.
That happened. Yes,
Oh.
chat has been helping
Okay.
everybody.
Just
Yeah, I like ChatGPT.
Or, and I actually usually don't use ChatGPT for that. What I do is I open a Google Docs, or
Yeah.
I think Apple Docs are the same thing. I don't know, but I open a Google Docs and I make the Google Docs translated. Because then in Google Docs, I'll have the English and the Spanish version.
Versions and save it. Yeah.
Mm.
And just I merge them into one document and say boom. So, and you just say, listen, this is a fairly close translation. In any time a client seems unsure or says, should I have an attorney look? The answer is yes.
Mhm.
Should I? Yes. If you think you should have an inspector look, if you think you need your priest to come over, yes. Does not matter.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
say, like, da-da-da. And one of the most famous ones is you'll be walking through a basement and there'll be asbestos wrapped around a pipe. Is that asbestos? Well, it's a white corrugated product around a pipe. It's entirely possible. I'm not an expert. If you're concerned, have someone look at it.
Look at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't give advice, even if it is the clearest thing in
Obvious,
the
yeah.
world. We can say, in my experience, people say, well, does this furnace work? In my experience, if furnaces hold water, they're usually pretty good. But you should have it looked at if you're concerned. I can't be that. Huge one on that is things like surveys and lot lines. I don't know where it ended up because I ended up leaving this E&O company. I was a dual agent on a sale of a property up in Scranton, and it was something Hyde Street. And normally the lot lines are from the street back. So 1214 Hyde Street would be the width of the building back. That's how every agent sold it before. That's how the county had it written down as a 2-unit. It was sold like 7 times as a 2-unit. When my guy bought it, he started renovating this complete crap hole. And all of a sudden he gets sued by somebody who bought the next door neighboring property to tax it. Come to find out the lot lines go this way. So now they're fighting out in court. I went to my lawyer and my E&O company and said, well, how would you have known? You're safe. The E&O company also simultaneously dropped me, even though I did nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I have now a little form that we make everyone sign and say, listen, if you didn't do a survey, that's on you, not on us.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't do a home inspection, that's on you, not on us. We're agents. We read what's in the listing and we sell based on what we read in the listing. We have no expertise beyond the paperwork. That's all we have. So, we always tell everybody, listen, we're not experts.
Mm-hmm.
We're experts in finding your property or selling your property. We can't tell you if the roof is going to live. We can't tell you if it's going to pass inspection. We can't tell you if any of this. Not our game. So within the template, seller's estimated closing costs. So when the buyer calls you up and says, hey, I'm ready to buy this house, make an offer on this house, they're going to get the agreement of sale and seller's estimated closing costs, and the seller will have provided a lead paint disclosure and the seller's disclosure. Now, when you're listing a property, it's important on the seller's lead-based paint disclosure. Almost always, your seller wants to initial here. They have no knowledge. They have no records. Well, I know the house is old. I know it had lead. No, you don't. Have you ever had a scientific test for lead? No. Well, then you don't know.
Yeah.
Don't put your neck on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it has no lead because I repainted it. There's lead in that wall.
Yeah.
This thing was built in 1972. There's lead there. So our job is to guide the client. And when filling out things like the I'll use the seller's estimated closing cost just because it's here. When filling out things like the closing costs, I talk about these like Walmart. You're the seller. Your job with the seller is to say, Mr. Seller, you just sold your house for $100,000. But here are all the minuses that are going to come off that $100,000. So you're not walking away from the table with $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's $100,000 minus these and minus something else that might exist. I don't know your mortgage number. I don't know your back taxes. So I'll always have things in here like title, liens, and mortgages, et cetera, are unknown, title company to detail. I'm putting 500 in there as a placeholder, but I've never freaking clue.
Yeah.
I was driving to closing one day, and the guy told me he had a $30,000 mortgage, so I put that in here. Well, it turns out there was another $20,000 mortgage he didn't bother to mention.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, I'm not selling your house. I said, no. He's like, well, you didn't include that yet. And I said, how could I? You didn't tell me it existed.
Yeah, you knew that.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I forgot it existed. I said,
Still not on you yet.
Still not my fault. And he's like, well, this said, I said, estimated.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know these things.
Yeah.
And so on the seller,
Now, is this something you do personally, or is that something you have to do, to estimate it?
you're required to.
Required, okay.
The agreement of sale, so the listing agreement is not technically legal unless you give them one of these.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll give them the consumer notice, the listing agreement, and this. And say, listen, it's a guess. And then when they sign that, then I'll send them the disclosure and the lead disclosure. Mostly because the disclosure is a terrifying document with lots of little boxes.
Mhm.
I want to lock them up first. Also, I say, listen, you have a week to do the disclosure. I need this stuff to list you. That stuff, you have a week.
Time, okay.
And on the buyer side, let me get out of here.
On the buyers, come on, gerbils. Come on, gerbils. On the checklist. Let's go to the buyer one. See if I have a good buyer one. Okay. So wire fraud. So, and these are not all needed all the time. You always need the consumer notice. You always need the buyer agency. Buyer estimated closing costs when they're ready to offer. And it's actually not even in here. Okay, deposit money notice.
So when the buyer is ready to make an offer, they've already done the consumer notice, they've already done the buyer agency. You're going to give them the agreement of sale, filled out with all their, that's the purchase agreement. You're going to give them the deposit money notice, which just tells them that, hey, their deposit is being held by us or another licensed escrow company. Where's your money going and what's the process on if it doesn't work out?
And if you've got multi-units, you're going to deal with the tenant attendants and stuff. And buyer estimated costs.
So when they're doing the offers, the AOS, the money notice, and the estimated costs. So you end up with 5 files in the system.
And you might end up with, a wire fraud notice if they're wiring money. You might end up with a lot of things.
And that's the other thing. When they say they're going to wire money, they say, well, I give them the wire, I'll give them the wiring information. It's their job to call me and verify it. And just, well, why? Well, because I wonder how it would happen, but it's entirely possible that wire document is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was intercepted and changed, or whether like my bank changed their wiring information and didn't bother to tell me. So money was being wired and bouncing back. So basically, at that point, we're the paper pushers.
So that's kind of the initial stuff. And then what you're going to do when you get anything signed by any party, and this will end up with, and we're moving our document storage to a different, so it moves to the new platform. But you're going to email everything, and this is part of, this will be on the video. gpghrealty@gmail.com. Anything emailed there goes permanently into our, what I call the close closet of the document filing system. What you will do as agents, and what I'll show you when you get to the new system, is you'll go in and you'll put it in the right folder.
Okay.
So we'll end up with a folder for each transaction, for each client, for each activity that has everything. So state officer shows up here and says, show me the 74 Matthews Drive folder. Here's the 74 Matthews Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is, it's neat, it's checked. You guys will do it, you'll check it. The TC will check it, I'll check it. So it goes in the system, we're fairly sure it's right. Mistakes happen, whatever. But you email anything to that. And I've emailed, I have a lot of stuff automatically going to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sits in this giant closet. Because all that stuff you learned in the class about you must hold this for 6 months, you must hold that for 3 years, it's forever. We don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's JPEGs, it doesn't like, pictures it doesn't like, it likes PDFs. So get a phone scanner, or if you got paperwork or whatever, get a real scanner, whatever. But basically, you want to save everything. You also want to get very organized within your own email and so forth. And you want to maybe not save everything, but that's why I do like the Google product or whatever. That, so your email at guerrillarealestate.net will forward to wherever you want it to. I'll give you an email box if you want, but what most people do is it forwards over.
Mm-hmm.
And you can in and out through guerrillarealestate.net, or what most people say is, well, I'm already using this Gmail account, just forward over here. That way, it's somebody. Hang on one second. Hey, I'm doing a training. What's up? Yeah. Hello. Yeah. All right. I'm actually Ryan. He's my business partner in the wholesale. He's also an agent. So let me just find out what he needs. We have a closing supposed to happen today.
Mm-hmm.
Did you plan with your email? Are you using your email? Or did you get another one?
Hey, I'm here training. Yeah, I'm here training. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, that's weird. Okay. Yeah, so I'm here, I'm here training a couple of gorillas on the orientation thing. But I sent the wire transfer out, what else do we have to do? No, tell me what's going on.
I was just gonna say to you that, what I'd really like to do is.
I don't know, baby.
Who? Ping now, I guess. Oh, no.
Did you, how long are you supposed to be?
Everything was looking 2:20.
You talking about?
Check hold.
Yeah, that mission, that.
What?
You said it's a big part to come.
I'll tell him, I just want to ask him one more question. Just where we, oh yeah, the business cards and all that too. Is that business card?
Yeah, it's, yeah, it's just,
What is it? What?
If anything comes in an email, because I haven't yeah, okay, bye. All right, yeah, so Ryan's actually an agent here, but he and I split the wholesale company. Yeah, we're part of it, and you guys can do wholesale as well. And this was, Ryan does not love being an agent.
So, how would we do the wholesale part, like, how that goes?
Yeah, so basically, I do 3 trainings a week.
Okay,
I do a broker's training, usually
Okay.
Tuesdays. And I'm thinking about just doing them all on Wednesdays, going class, and you guys can watch them, whatever. So wholesaling, all right, so Pennsylvania law is that units 1, 2, 3, and 4, you have to be licensed to do wholesale. Land and 5+, anybody can do wholesale. But of course, we're licensed, so it's always under the license. Although land and 5+, we don't have to run through the brokerage fund. Really, all wholesale is, and wholesale gets more complicated, but wholesale is getting someone who says, listen, I really don't want the top value. I don't need the top value for my house. So I have every conversation is the same way. You know, we collect information, we find out, about their house, we do some comp research, we call them back. You've seen the problem with calling back, because like the guy now, a lot of times they're just simply not there again. So you try to do it all in the same call, but sometimes it's not practical. They're calling you and you're driving. How do you comp something? But you try to collect all the information, try to give them, your best information, but don't guess it. Like if it's, in drums or something, you can guess the price. If it's in, Philadelphia, you can't guess the price. You just don't know the neighborhood. The difference between what we do as listing agents and what we do on the wholesale side is the wholesale side, we're saying we're going to give you this price. And just like with the sellers as to the closing costs, it's minus the lien. So you're not paying commission, but you're still paying off liens, taxes, and transfer taxes. Sometimes transfer taxes. So, hey, listen, I'm giving you $100,000. And that's what these people who didn't go with us yesterday were upset by. Hey, listen, I'm giving you $100,000 for your house. But 2 things. 1 is I need a few weeks to look at your house. 2 is you're not going to get $100,000. You're going to get $100,000 minus the liens that are involved in it. Your wholesale seller is motivated. There is something they care about more than the top value of dollar. One of the early questions I say to people is, listen, as a broker, I can probably get you $75,000 for your house. As a buyer, I can pay you $45,000 for your house, and here's why. because I'm gonna sell it at the end for this price, minus my lender, my selling costs, my carrying costs, my rehab costs, we're down here.
Mhm.
You wanna shoot for up here, let's do a listing agreement for no less than 6 months, commissions, the whole 9 yards. You're okay down here, we're only gonna tie you up for a couple weeks till we get our investors in there, which are mostly our buyers, and we'll be done a lot quicker. We might sell you, and I had this older couple, office was configured differently, but they were here, and I said, listen, I can list you for 75, I can buy it for 45. I said, I'm telling you right now, this was like in 2022. I said, don't sell it. List it. What do you think? And they went with wholesale. And at the closing, the guy, I mean, these people were moneyed, they were clearly not idiots. And at the closing, the guy's like, you wholesaled that thing for exactly what you told. I said, I wholesaled for more than I told you I would get for it. And he's like, good job. I said, so you're not pissed? He's like, no. I said, so why didn't you take the 75? He's like, it was the first fight my wife and I ever had in 45 years. He's like, if we didn't sell that house that day, she was leaving. And they're in their 70s. This was like,
Yeah.
like there, whatever. So his was the perfect case.
Yeah.
I had another woman, we sold her house. We made $6,000 selling her piece of crap in Plymouth. Not only did she bring $9,000 to closing, so she paid our commission plus $3,000 to get rid of this house. She brought us cookies and tried to kiss us. And she went on video and she's like, I have been losing sleep and literally tearing my eyelids off since the things that happened that led up to selling the house.
Mhm.
In wholesale, it only works if it's a win-win-win situation.
Yeah.
In any of it. But in wholesale, we're fixing a problem. And that's why whenever you're talking to a seller, their story matters more than anything else.
So with the wholesaling, are we, let's say, are we selling the property for them or are we purchasing their properties?
So
of the
basically,
company?
in wholesaling, we're saying to them, hey, you're going to receive, $100,000
Yes.
minus your liens.
Okay.
Anything above that number,
That's ours.
we keep.
Yep.
That's our profit. And now there are some times where we will split, like we're doing one in Wyoming, a beautiful brick or stone farmhouse. And the woman's taking 83,000. Anything over 93, we're splitting 50-50. Because it's very likely going to sell for 135. And she didn't want to list it, but she also didn't love the idea of walking away from that. And I said, that's not fair. I should not make $50,000 off you.
Yeah.
So the first 10 is mine, and then a sliding scale, whatever. So, and we're not, and your question of are we buying it or listing it? It's being bought, and we're making money on the spread, but there's two ways, that question kind of gets fairly complicated, but there's two ways that thing can close. It can close as an assignment, which means we have a right to buy the house for $100,000. We assign it to you for 130. Our fee for assigning it is 30. And so the buyer is buying it from the seller, and we're simply sitting over here, not as brokers. Well, kind of as brokers on the estate law, but whatever. Not as brokers. We're receiving a fee. We're sort of just the guy in the middle, or a double close.
Yeah.
If the deal is big enough, I'm going to buy it at 10 a.m. from the seller, and I'm going to sell it at 10:30 to the buyer. And I do that when the spread is so big, I think someone's going to get pissed over about 20, 30 grand. I'll lose the $3,000 I have to double close it because I don't want the seller to know what I sold it for. And I don't want the buyer to know what I bought it for.
Mhm.
So really, each deal is a little different. Now you're probably right about SB 1173 and the whole new wholesale law and whatever. We, as of very recently, no longer use those contracts. We actually use an listing agreement and keep on the listing because under the wholesale law, they have 30 days to change their mind for any reason. So we'll go through all the effort and be walking into closing.
They can change their mind.
They can simply say, oh, Steve's wearing blue today. I don't want to sell the house. Whatever.
Yeah.
And we had one person do that. So we said, no more.
we're doing net listing agreements, which means, I mean, can we force them to? But they can't simply pull a right of refusal out of nowhere. But wholesale does work a couple ways differently. And I know we've done a lot, so I don't want to tie you up too long. So with the brokerage firm, we pay 80/20. And then we pay, after you paid in whatever said you think it was 12,000 to the company, you get 100%. I think it's like $750 per deal, comes to the company. The rest of it, you get all of it. With wholesale, it's the same math, 80/20, with a higher cap. I think it's like 20,000 or something, only because you can make a $12,000 cap in one deal. And because wholesale is a lot more risk for the company,
Yeah.
I have to cap you out at 100, a little higher, because that's actually what Ryan needed to talk about. Is we're trying to dispo this particular house. Dispo means market and sell. And as soon as the guy heard, he's like, we're licensed, we're also wholesale. He said, oh, you bleeping slime balls, I'm calling the state, and hung up. So the brokerage firm's on the hook. We actually, before the law went into effect a year ago, last July, the law went into effect. It was passed in July, but it went into effect in January. We had to have a state inspector here interview me and Ryan together about his activities in this transaction, and me separately, and look at every document, even though the state had no jurisdiction in wholesale. But someone reported us to the state. And once the report comes in, the state has to come and investigate. And that's permanently on our file. So that's the reason, 80/20 is a lot bigger in wholesale, but that's the reason I have a slightly higher cap out number, because you could be wholesaling a piece of land or a 5+ or commercial or mixed use, and they can still call the state. So I have to be a little more careful. But we can also wholesale nationwide. We can sell nationwide through referrals to other brokerage firms on MLS. But, there's a lot of opportunity on the wholesale side to sell storage, mobile home park. Actually, that's on both sides as well. We can list anything. Strip mall, strip club, sell storage, we don't care. We can list anything. So our licenses, the only thing we can't do, I think we can do campground memberships, but I've never done them. We can sell campgrounds, but I'm not sure about the memberships. And we can sell cemeteries, but I don't think we can sell cemetery plots.
Yeah.
I think that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we would get into campground memberships or plots. And when it comes to, we can represent tenants, we can represent landlords. We have a separate company for management. So we don't really operate management through here. But if you have a landlord that says, hey, I just want you to lease my property, I don't want you to run it for me, we can do that. If you have tenants who come to you and say, hey, listen, I want you to find me a property, we can do that. The question about those things are, the landlord one, sure. If a landlord comes to you and says, hey, he wants management, we'll talk about how that would work with management company. But he wants you just to rent his apartment and he'll do everything else, sure. Because that's an ongoing source of business. There's multiple units in the property. Why would you represent a tenant? I'm not saying you wouldn't or shouldn't, but realistically, the most typically a landlord will pay is 1 month's rent, usually half month's rent, and usually you're sharing that with the listing agent. So so $1,000 just became 500, and now you're splitting out with somebody. Really, unless you turn to the tenant and said, yeah, for 1,500, I'll find you an apartment. This isn't a market where there's a lot of tenants needing agents, but anything like that is doable. And really, so on the wholesale side of it, so we talked about FSBOs and expired listings. On the wholesale side of it, I tell people that, so as a licensee, if it's advertised, it's a target. Okay, if it's advertised by another licensee, no. And here's where the curveball in that law goes. That other licensee has a listing for 123 Main Street. You can't talk to the owner of 123 Main Street about 123 Main Street. You can talk to that owner about anything else they own that's not listed. So if they own 123 Main Street and they own the rest of the block, you can reach out to them and say, I'm not talking about 123 Main Street, I'm talking about the rest of your ownership. No problem. Other than that, and wholesale agreements with
in the SB 1173 new law space units 1, 2, 3, 4 with a licensed agent. Anybody else, which you also can't go after because it's with a licensed agent. Anybody else is an open target. And what do I mean by that? Meaning for sale by owner. As a listing agent, if he's for sale by owner, as a wholesaler, for sale by owner is already advertised. The world's already seen him at $100,000. So we can't put him on the market at $100,000 and expect to get anywhere.
Yeah.
As a wholesaler, there's no room to go. As a listing agent, yeah, we're going to take 6%. So as a wholesaler, I don't want a FSBO that's already been on the market because I'd have to get him at like 50 grand and put it back on the market at 75.
Yeah.
And why would he do that? As an agent, I can list him at 100 grand, take my 6% commission, and life goes on. Everybody's happy. I've taken work off his plate. Expired listing, same thing. Wholesale might work there. Listing definitely will. Things listed by wholesalers, I mean non-licensed, and things within the 1 to 4. Really, any wholesale agreement, we do not have to honor. So if a wholesaler lists a 5-unit, 20-unit commercial car wash, we can go talk to that owner. He might still owe that wholesaler their obligation. And you tell them, listen, if you list with me, I'm not fixing your other obligation, if you have one. But if it's a 1, 2, 3, 4 unit property and a wholesaler has it, and I'm not recommending this path, but there are some jerk wholesalers out there. They don't, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, they don't have a valid contract. Because they can't be wholesaling 1, 2, 3, 4 units and not be licensed.
Right.
So if you get a wholesaler's list, nothing stops him having the conversation. Is the owner obligated to that wholesaler? That's the owner. That's the question the owner has to answer. But what I'm saying is, as agents, we can go after anything except listed by another agent. As wholesalers, you can go after stuff that's advertised, but you have to look at it and say, well, am I bringing it back on the market at the same price? What am I really doing? Land as a so small land like city lot land. You kind of have to say to yourself, well, how much is an empty lot in Hazleton worth? I mean, Hazleton's worth a lot now, but what am I going to do? I'm going to, what's the value there? Now, I have minimum commissions. I don't put anything, I don't take any listing that doesn't have a $4,000 or $5,000 commission. So other things we can go into further, but basically wholesale is really about the motivated seller. If you hear them say, I'm going to tax sale next week. If you hear them say, whatever, I just need to be rid of this house. Then your question is, okay, well, how low will you be willing to go? So anyway, I kind of covered a lot of stuff. Are there any other questions that you guys have?
No, I think just you were asking about the cards so we can make our
The
cards
business
up.
cards.
Yeah, okay, so I will send you the graphics for the cards. And okay, so the rule on the cards is we have cards that look kind of like the one behind the door there. We have that design, except where the little gorilla guy goes and we have a gorilla that's not an animal anymore, it's more of a cartoon. We have that one, we have the cartoon gorilla. Your face goes roughly where that circle thing is.
Okay. Now when it says the Realtor Room makes cash offers and stuff like that, that's
I mean, you can keep that on the cards or not.
okay.
A lot of time, and this is our other primary card design. A little bit simpler. On the back can do whatever you want.
Okay.
This is the verbal consumer notice. So I'll send you a bunch of card designs. You can also
Okay.
say to me, hey, we want to design our own card, and
Okay.
that's fine. I have to approve the designs of any advertising. And the most important thing is Gorilla Real Estate and the brokerage phone number cannot be, let's go with smaller. The state says we
Same
have to
size,
be equally
right?
prominent. And EXP ripped my design apart. He said it's not equally prominent. I said it's the same font size, weight, and font. He's like, well, I don't think it's equally prominent. The state gave a stupid answer. I mean, and that's his call as the broker.
Yeah.
If it looks the same, if it looks reasonably the same, the point is what they want to know is they want to know that the state, that if the client can't reach you or is pissed at you,
They know where to go.
they know the next step to go to. They don't have to think about it.
Okay.
And that goes for everything. So on your Facebook header, technically, everything in your life now belongs to the state. I'm a Facebook header. You should have a Facebook business profile. You should have an Instagram and whatever socials you have a business profile.
Okay.
Keeps all the, you guys are together with kids or whatever, so it's different, but it keeps all the baby daddy, mama drama, all that crap on your personal. But even on your personal, it should still say licensed agent with Gorilla Real Estate phone number. The point is, if someone just knows you and they want to get to me, they're supposed to be able to do that.
Gotcha.
Even on your voicemail. I do not do this. None of my voicemails have Gorilla. But in theory, even on your voicemail, it's supposed to say, "Hi, this is Billy. I'm an agent with Gorilla Real Estate. Here's the broker's phone number." Stupid. Makes no sense. But the state, and the state will never use that as a causal, but just be careful.
Mhm.
Also, very important, you always need the house with equals. You always need the equal opportunity
Okay.
stuff on anything.
Okay.
And I need to approve it. So I'll send you the card designs that we have, all of that stuff, and I'll send you the card designs or whatever, and you guys can say, "Hey, listen, I got a better idea for design." As long as I see it and I approve it, I don't care.
Okay.
As long as, and the same thing with the signs. I held you off a little bit on the cards because I thought we were going with that national company.
Yeah.
It turns out that they wanted to control all my other businesses. They didn't want to own them. They just wanted to tell me I couldn't do them. And I said, well, that's not happening. You can't be an educator. You can't be a property manager. I said, no. You guys came to me.
Mhm.
So we're going off in this direction. We do offer, things you can also make money off. You can make money off lending. We have a lending company we work with, and they give us 1.5%, I think, of each deal. We split that.
Okay.
We have training classes. I give you a third or whatever the training fee is. I'm not saying you sell this stuff, but the lending is primarily investor lending. We don't get, it's not really illegal for us to get paid in residential lending. But investor lending we can. But you got somebody who's buying a multi-unit and they want to get funding on it? Yeah. They're doing a flip, they want to get funding? Yeah. They want unsecured business credit, lines of credit, we can get paid on that. So there's
Okay.
other ways to make money. So I'll get you all the different card designs, and you can kind of look them over and say, hey, and you can use them, do whatever. As long as you're going off with your own design, you run it through me. I don't mind paying for your first set of cards also. I don't mind paying for the first 500 or so. We do have signs here. You're welcome to get more, but we always have a couple signs. Lock boxes. I don't personally use the board's digital lock boxes. First of all, because they're kind of expensive, but more importantly, if you're not a member of the board and you haven't, so when you signed up, you should have gotten your lockbox,
Lockbox information and stuff.
and
yeah.
you should have asked to be co-opted to the surrounding counties.
Okay.
So talk to the board about being co-opted so that you can open lockboxes in Luzerne County, you can open lockboxes in whatever other counties you co-opt your
Okay.
way into.
I'll give them a call.
And there's a quick form for that, whatever, that's easy. I use the old school roll wheel lock boxes. I'm looking at touch tone lock boxes we're playing with that are just digital versions of the other ones, and they're a little bit Bluetoothy. But pretty much I use the old school wheelie ones just because we can just give out the code.
Yeah.
No one unlicensed can receive the codes. So if your client says, hey, I just want to show myself the house, you can drive by it. I can't let you go in on your own. On a wholesale, it becomes a little bit easier, but whatever. I don't mind if you guys say, hey, I want to get the Bluetooth lock boxes. I don't mind doing that, but because I've never done it simply because the logic that I have always had is if an agent not on the board didn't co-op his way into that address, he ain't getting in.
Mhm.
And you're getting a call at 6:30 on a Sunday morning saying, can you drive over there and let me in the house? I'm not doing that. Are they more secure than rolling boxes? Yeah, but for that. Also, when you go into somebody else's digital lockbox house, realize it tracked who did it and when it did it. And so make sure you put the key back, make sure that you leave things because they're going to know who was there. And that's going to require an app on your phone. And you're going to want to update that app fairly often. That app can get a little bit cranky if you don't update it. But that's pretty much it. And obviously, anything comes up, just call me.
Yeah.
We'll walk through it. And the last piece of information, two last pieces. One is, I'm your first call if stuff starts to not go normal. Basically, don't try to wing it.
Okay.
And two is read the contract carefully. I've got stories of my own stuff where I thought the contract said this is the way it works, and I almost ended up with two buyers on a $3 million property because I didn't read the termination clause correctly, and we would have been on hook to one of those buyers for whatever penalty they wanted to make up.
Mhm.
We got out of it; it was fine, but the point is, I wasn't aware of how the contract was worded. So anything not normal, call me. This goes back to when I was first, a newbie agent, because the stuff you learn in class is the stuff you have to pass the test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stuff you learn when the transaction's open, and the last thing is over communicate with your client and with title and with anybody else. And over communicate meaning client knows everything. There's an assumption of knowledge. If you know something, it is instantly assumed that your client also knows it. So if the buyer tells you something, it's instantly assumed. If you say, I almost got in trouble with one of my agents did last month. They told a buyer, yeah, that deal will work. And that deal didn't work for the seller. And the buyer was like, well, he told me. He made the commitment based on the client. We never give final answers.
Mhm.
Sounds like that will work, but of course I have to get the client to sign off on it.
Yeah.
Even if the client texts you, yes, that will work, my answer to the other side is, they texted that will probably work. Of course, we don't know until they actually sign it. You're always pushing that. You always worry about liability. What am I saying to a judge? What am I saying to this? What am I saying to that? So it's all about, and this is a very type A game. So I know it kind of took longer, but hopefully, hopefully you guys are okay.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
No, we're
Yeah.
fine.
All right, yeah. So that's pretty much it. And
Yeah.
the one last thing is this printer is a little bit finicky. I'm probably going to replace it. It loses connection with the Wi-Fi. It's on the 2G.
Okay.
Okay.
If it gives you problems, I'll walk you through it. I probably have to replace it, but I hate replacing it because it works perfectly fine. It just forgets the
The
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi,
Yeah, the
yeah,
Wi-Fi.
that's one or the other.
All right, that's it then.
All right, sounds
All
good.
right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if I have any more questions, I'll
Yeah.
I'll shoot you over a text.
And I'll send you the training schedule, and as soon as I call Ryan back, I'll send out the card options.
Okay, thank you.
Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, and also, I'm toying with doing a monthly meetup down in Hazelton. So if you know any locations or whatever, especially with the Spanish community thing, that's it. Those are angel investors,
Okay.
investors and wholesalers and whatever. So
Okay.
yeah, the thing about that's worth doing.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Emma. Check, may I help you?
Hi, it's Steve Franco, returning a call with the Black and Street closing on Friday.
Yeah, hey Steve, I just hung up from my message to you.
Okay.
So, it's my understanding that the lender is still trying to do this closing on Friday,
Okay.
but I do, need a couple of things, however. One being, of course, that written payoff.
Right, which that one, unfortunately, I'm waiting for my lender, which usually they're a lot faster, but yeah, we'll have that shortly. I hope. Yeah.
Okay, so you're working on getting the actual payoff.
I signed that thing and sent it back to them right away. They said, yes, we're rushing it, we know. So, yeah, they're working on it.
Okay. So who's preparing the deed for this sale?
You guys can go ahead and prepare it, that's fine. I
Okay,
can,
let me make, LS abstract. How about the commission on this transaction?
I think it was 2.5 to the buyer's agent. It's 2.5 to both sides, but truthfully, since I'm the seller and the agent, it doesn't matter, really, it just matters 2.5 to LS.
Okay,
So,
so I'm collecting 5% on the
Yeah.
CD and making 2.5 to
Yeah.
your real estate company?
yeah, 2.5, yeah.
2.5. Okay. How about, so is this 2 units? How many-
Yeah, 2 units, and I just realized I forgot about the stupid BNI. Okay, I'll go down today and file the BNI. The buy,
Okay,
the
so
work with
it's 2 units.
It's 2
Are
units,
they
yeah.
rented or vacant?
One's rented actually to the buyer's son, and the other one's vacant.
Okay, so is there like security I need to transfer or?
Let me actually text Kelly on the security deposits.
The security?
Yeah, I'm gonna have Kelly, my wife is also my property manager. And I'm gonna have
Can you
her,
have her email me?
yeah, and you can email her as well as Kelly, I'll send you guys my email, but hers is Kelly at PM.
Okay, you wanna just tag me
Yeah.
on that
Yeah.
email then?
Yep, I'll do that.
Okay, yep, I need to know security and rent, if it's due, the rent is due on the first, if it's collected for September.
Okay, so
Okay,
yeah,
and
so,
then-
yeah.
You have the certificate of occupancy for Wilkes-Barre?
We do, and the one thing that I just realized now I totally forgot about is the bio notification inspection, so I'm literally just going to go right now and apply for that. So I just totally forgot that existed.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm gonna start working on putting some numbers together, but if you wanna have your wife just send me that security and rent information,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
great.
and I mean, and if the lender is still working, I mean, we don't mind pushing back closing, you know, by a couple, by whatever, I mean, because obviously especially with the lender still working on it, and me having forgotten BNI, it's like, you know, if it happens like Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't care. What we might do, just to make our lives easier, is we might come down, and it's okay with you Friday morning, and we'll sign everything but the HUD. That way, all the notarization crap is out of the way, or, because we have a very busy week coming up next week. So we'll just sign all the notarization stuff.
Okay, well, let's wait and see when the lender can do this.
Okay.
Cause I'm still, you know, without a written payoff, I won't, you know, obviously I'm
You can't,
having to
you can't
do
run your
it.
final numbers, yeah.
Nope, and then if you wanna do that other inspection for Wilkes-Barre, you know, if they need more time, then we'll have to push the closing to next week, and we'll figure it out,
Yeah,
okay?
and I will, like, that's why, as soon as I drive over there, I'll ask them to rush it, usually they get through, especially if they've already, you know, those BNIs are not a big deal, yeah.
Okay, if you run into an issue, just let us know so we can
Okay.
reschedule it.
All right, yeah, that'd be good, thank you.
Alright.
Thanks, bye-bye. I forgot the fucking BNI.